Lesson 3.5, using cross-canceling when multiplying fractions. Let's take a look at the example provided at the top. We're multiplying 2/5 times 1/6. Now, we know the traditional method here is to multiply numerators 2 times 1, multiply denominators 5 times 6. Okay, so let's do that up here. 2 times 1, up top, 5 times 6, down low, and we get 2/30. And since 2 and 30 are both even numbers, 2 can go into both sides. I can divide the top by 2, divide the bottom by 2 to get a final answer of 1/15 in simplest form. So what we have done here is first we've solved it, and then we have done our simplifying as our final step. Now, this concept of cross-canceling allows us to do this simplifying up front instead of waiting until the end. And let me show you that in action. Down here, 2/5 times 1/6. Well, if we look at this numerator that's diagonally across from this denominator, and we think about factor rainbow for 2, which would be 1 and 2. And we think about a factor rainbow for 6, which would be 1 and 6, 2 and 3. Well, what's the greatest common factor that both of these share? Well, in this case, it's the 2, isn't it? 2 is a common factor shared by the number 2 and the number 6. In other words, I can divide 2 by 2, and I can divide 6 by 2. And that's what we've done here. As I've gone from here to here, I've simply told myself, okay, 2 divided by 2 is 1, or 2 goes into itself once. 6 divided by 2 is 3, or 6 divided by 2 is 3. And then what is left? 1 times 1 is 1. 5 times 3 is 15. We've done the simplifying earlier instead of waiting till the end. Let's see that in action down here for the first problem. 5/12 times 4/9. Look at our diagonals. Numerator 5, denominator 9. No common factors there. 5, you got the 1 and the 5. 9, you've got the 1, 3, and 9. The only thing they share is a 1. 12 versus 12 and 4. Now there's a common factor here. What's the greatest common factor that 12 and 4 share? Well, if you're not sure, write out your factor rainbow. For 12, 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. And for 4, 1 and 4, 2 and itself. The greatest common factor shared between these two numbers, or by these two numbers, is 4. So now, before we multiply across the top and multiply across the bottom, let's simplify first. Let's simplify by saying 4 goes into 4 once, so I'll cross that out and replace it with a 1. 4 goes into 12 3 times, I'll cross that out down here, replace that with a 3. And now let's multiply what we have left. 5 times 1 is 5 for my numerator. 3 times 9 is 27 for my denominator. And to be honest, I have no idea why this answer showed 1/8 at the beginning. I think that must have just been a typing mistake. Let's go on to number 2. 1/9 times 3/4. Look at your numerators that are diagonally across from the denominator. 1 versus 4. Is there a greatest common factor shared by both? Well, just 1. 3 and 9. Is there a greatest common factor shared by both of these two numbers? If you said 3, you're correct. 3 goes into itself once, so we can cross out the 3, replace that with a 1. 3 goes into 9 3 times. Cross that out. 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times 4 is 12. We get 1/12 as our answer. Now, for number 3, we have 3/10 multiplied by 5/12. Let's look at the numerators that are diagonally across from the denominators. Do 3 and 12 share a common factor? If you said yes, you're correct. What is the common factor? The greatest common factor shared by these two numbers is 3. How many times does 3 go into itself? Once. How many times does 3 go into 12? 4 times. Take a look at the other two numbers. Do 10 and 5 share a common factor? Yes, they do. 5 goes into each of these numbers. 5 goes into itself once. 5 goes into 10 2 times. And look how much we have simplified this. Now we have 1 times 1 across the top, which is plain old 1. 2 times 4 across the bottom, which is 8. Got a final answer of 1/8. 1/2 times 4/5. 1 and 5. Greatest common factor shared is 1. 2 and 4. 2 goes into both numbers. 2 goes into 4 twice. 2 goes into itself once. This becomes 1 times 2 across the top, 1 times 5 across the bottom. We get a final answer of 2/5. 8/9 times 6/11. Do 8 and 11 share a common factor? No, they don't, because 11 is a prime number. So if you were to make a factor rainbow for 11, it'd be pretty small. It would just be 1 and 11. There's no other pair of factors that can get you 11. Now 9 versus 6, what factor goes into both of these numbers? If you said 3, you're correct. 3 goes into 6 2 times. 3 goes into 9 3 times. So now we have 8 times 2 across the top, 3 times 11 across the bottom. We get 16 over 33. Number 6, 5/24 times 3/5. Right away, your eye may see 5 and 5. Those can cancel each other out. That's why we call it cross-canceling, because 5 goes into itself once. Now look at this, 3 and 24. Both of these numbers share a common factor of 3. 3 goes into itself once. 3 goes into 24 8 times. 1 times 1 across the top. 8 times 1 across the bottom. 1/8 is our final answer. So, to wrap up this lesson, when you are multiplying two fractions, look at the possibility of using cross-canceling to do your simplifying up front instead of trying to solve the problem and then do your simplifying at the end. It'll save you a lot of number crunching. For example, look at number 5. If we had just gone ahead and done 8 times 6 for our numerator, we would have gotten 48. 9 times 11 for our denominator, 99. And looking at this, we might have thought this is our final answer. It's hard to look at this and know how to simplify it. I mean, we could. It would just take some effort to write out our factor rainbows and figure out what to divide the top and bottom by. Whereas doing our cross-canceling up front made the number crunching so much simpler.